Welcome to the Skiffy and Fanny Show and our latest episode of Signal Boost.
Today, we're going to find out how an anthology becomes more than the sum of its parts. Story by story, or in this case, hot dish by hot dish, followed by even hotter tea.
Fun. I'm Shaun.
And I'm Jennifer.
And today on Signal Boost, we have Tonya R. Moore here to talk to us about The Cookout, an anthology of speculative fiction from the African diaspora. According to the Kickstarter site, the project has successfully been crowdfunded, so congratulations, but now they are open for author submissions. So,
welcome to the show, Tonya. Could you tell our viewers and listeners briefly who you are and how you became associated with this project?
I'm Tonya Moore. I'm a Jamaican speculative fiction writer based in Florida. I also am the poetry editor at Solarpunk Magazine and an associate writer at Galactic Journey. I was a member of a writing group, actually, where several of us wanted to produce an anthology. And we wrote down several ideas. This was over a year and a half ago. So we've been working on it this whole time. And someone suggested a cookout. I don't remember who, but we all immediately latched on to that. And it just the idea just kept growing from there. And now this is what we have. We have a book coming out pretty soon.
That is absolutely wonderful. That's actually how some of the best anthologies in the world happen.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So let's start with let's start with the kind of open call, because it's been funded on Kickstarter. So a book is coming, and it does have some writers already attached, which I'm sure you can tell us a little about, but also tell us a little bit about like the process for the open call. What are you expecting? Okay.
So right now we're looking for submissions from Black individuals of the African diaspora, of course. We want speculative stories centered around the culture and traditions of the cookout specifically. And we're looking for positive, hopeful works, bold fiction, people who want to take a little walk on the wild side without getting too wild, of course. So we're not looking for Black trauma. We're looking for cookout conventions. We're looking for the diasporic experience. We're looking for, who's going to bring the potato salad? Who invited Cthulhu to the cookout? Feuding aunties, locking horns at the dinner table, at the picnic table. So it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be uplifting, but also just highly imaginative.
Well, do you personally have any specific wish list type of stories?
I don't specifically have a wish list. I'm trying to keep a very open mind for this. We just want it to be centered around a cookout. A cookout is in your story. That's what I'm looking for. And then other than that, we want a really great story that readers will enjoy. And it has to be speculative fiction.
Okay. So I, as an anthologist, one of the things that I do when I have a semi-open call like this is, I choose anchor authors. And I see that you have some wonderful anchor authors: Shireen Renee Thomas, Devon Sanders, Bert Lambert, Eden Roy. So can I ask how you chose your anchor authors, and have they written their stories already? And if they have, will you give us a tiny little sneak peek as to what they've got?
Oh my goodness. So some of the stories are complete. Some are not complete yet. We really want to keep this under wraps and leave everything a surprise for everyone. But the way we selected them was we had a wish list. We had a big wish list. These are the authors that in our wildest dreams, this is who I'd love to see in our anthology. We wanted it to be some people who are well established in the genre, up and coming individuals, and not to... I'm trying to think of a good word. Not someone who's been in the industry for decades upon decades upon decades. Someone who's contemporary, who's in the midst of their careers, and who's well known. And we had a vote. And we all voted for our 3 top choices. And once those votes were done, these are the authors we chose.
I recently met, last Gen Con, I was on a panel with Devon, and man, listening to him talk, it was one of my favorite panels to be on the entire time I was there. So I'm very excited to read his story.
Oh, I am too. And Devon is, he's also the editor of a forthcoming book from Tor. It's Forged in Fire, which I have a story in that too. So I am so excited about that one. But he's great. I've worked with him for several years as a part of Fire Literary Magazine. And so we were well familiar with, his skill and his talent and his ability to follow through.
So I want to ask a question about the cookout itself. I have a conception of a cookout because I've been to cookouts of, within my family, but this is taking a very specific perspective, an African diaspora perspective on the cookout. And I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about kind of that view of the cookout, the kind of significance of the cookout from that particular perspective.
I would say that for members of the Black diaspora, the cookout is similar to a Thanksgiving gathering. Family members, close friends, they come and they share a meal. You will have various variations on the cookout from one family might be in charge of the cooking and do all the cooking, or you might have members of the family bring dishes to the cookout. So you can do both approaches and it still wouldn't really deviate from the idea of a cookout. You just want to cook where you're having the event and have a great time together. In Jamaica, there is a very old tradition called rowing a boat, row a boat. It's like an impromptu cookout. So you'll just one day say, hey, let's go row a boat. And everybody gathers whatever they can find. And you have your cookout. And some of the best meals that you can have been at when you row a boat, because it is just so wonderful, unplanned, just right on the spot, and everybody has a good time.
How often do these cookouts happen? I mean, it's just because when you say something like Thanksgiving, I think, okay, that's once a year, but obviously it's different that way in Africa and how you perceive it. Is it family only? Is it found family? Is it going to be neighborhoods?
Either one. You could have a neighborhood cookout. You could have a company cookout. You could have a friends and family cookout. You could have a family only cookout. So it's very adaptable and there is no regularity to it. So you could have a cookout today and have another one next week. You could have it only at family reunions, on celebrate graduations, birthdays, and so forth.
Interesting.
Okay.
So it's very community, I would say community oriented what community you want represented at your cookout seems pretty significant, which I find very interesting because those are similar to cookouts I've been to when I was a military brat, living on base housing, where you just have like a family would start cooking stuff and like the neighborhood would kind of all collect in an area.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
And another tradition that's very similar is the tailgater party.
Yeah.
So it is not mutually exclusive to Black people.
Interesting.
Or it might have been derived from Black culture, from African culture, but it is a worldwide thing now.
Right.
What makes it kind of special to us is the kinds of food we cook. The kind of drama you'd expect.
I understand that. When we lived, I was also a military brat, and we lived in Belgium, and my dad was a master barbecuer. He was, that master of the grill thing. His coworkers who were from all over Europe were so excited to try American barbecued ribs.
Ooh.
Because they never they'd never had it because that's not one of the cuts of meat that a lot of them ever ate. And because of that, and where we lived, and they were calling them the von Brozeks and such like that. And it is a favorite memory of mine. And I was wondering, do you have a personal favorite memory of a cookout?
I do, and it's so weird because I cannot remember what I ate. I cannot remember who I was with. The only thing I remember is that we were in Jamaica, where I came from. There is a place called Dunn's River Falls. But in the hills above Dunn's River Falls, there's a place called Bogue. And at the time, Bogue was a very wild and untouched area. And I remember we went there, and I believe the river there actually led down into Dunn's River Falls. I can remember being in the water, and it was just clear, beautiful, and blue. And that image has stuck with me my entire life.
That's wonderful. A beautiful image. So you mentioned food,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta ask, what when you say that the food is like a big thing, what is it about the food? Like, help me understand like what the spread looks like, because now I'm very curious.
Okay, so it depends on where you're from, what geographic location. Because if you're a Jamaican, you go to a cookout, you want to see curried chicken, you want to see curried goat, you want to see oxtail, you want to see goat head soup.
I'm so hungry.
So if you're in America, you probably want to see barbecued ribs. You want to see not mashed potatoes, the potato salad. So it all depends on where you're from. And that's a part of the specialness of the cookout, is that depending on where you're from, where you grew up, who you grew up with, it can be very different from what you'll experience when you go to someplace else.
Mm. Oh man, you are talking my language right now. You're talking about curry goat and oxtail. Oh, I'm so hungry. Ugh. What are you doing to me, Tonya? We don't have that here. I want it so bad. I want like some Jamaican food, like bad right now.
Well, I live in a Jamaican household, and sometimes we just have to have Jamaican food. So we find it wherever it may be.
I'm going to come visit.
And make it. Yeah, you should come visit sometime.
Sorry.
So I'm curious as to, since there's a specific set of food and terminology that is used, and the different cookouts by culture, I was wondering how you're going to have that translated into your anthology of speculative fiction. What do you think is going to surprise your readers? What do you think is going to surprise you as editors?
One of the things that I think will surprise us as editors is we're expecting to hear from a very diverse group of writers, Black writers, and we all come from different cultures. We don't really know how it's done in each other's cultures. We're going to learn a lot about how the cookout goes in different cultures. If you're Trinidadian, if you're Barbadian, if you're Jamaican, those might be three completely different cookouts. And that's a part of the fun of it, is going to be learning what happens at those cookouts, what people eat, what kind of drama happens, what are they, what people tend to wear, what, who does the cooking, that kind of thing.
And how do you see that translating into the speculative aspect?
Well, basically it's speculative fiction, so it's going to be a sci-fi, a horror, or a fantasy story. The only thing about it is that there's a cookout involved. So you could have a cookout on a space station.
See, it's kind of interesting for me because my brain, when I think cookout, automatically goes to a barbecue. But when you say something like curried meat, to me, I see a dish that's in a pot. So my brain is trying to wrap itself around how that would work, because part of me is like, well, it's almost like a picnic, but it's not.
It's bigger than a picnic, because imagine you got pots this size.
Oh my gosh.
Full of soup or curry or whatever that particular dish is. So we're not talking about just you bring a little dish here and a little dish there. We mean business. We're going to cook some food.
For just listeners, Tonya raised her hand about 3 feet off the floor, so a pot that big. I actually own a stock pot that big, so because I make homemade bone broth. Well, I should say by I mean my husband does, because he is the cook in my family for the most part. But that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I
You're going to
wish
feed some
Brandon was
people.
on this. Yes.
Yeah.
I wish Brandon was on this call because he's from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
It would be so awesome if Brandon was here because I'd really love to know how they do it in Trinidad and Tobago.
I would like to know too, and maybe he needs to write a story.
Yeah.
I think he needs to write a story.
We'll poke Brandon after this.
He needs to get a story into me first, and then he can get a story into you.
We'll poke him, but remind him he has other deadlines first. Yeah, okay.
Don't we all?
So I want to kind of circle to the process for putting this anthology together. This, you're not alone as editor here. You've mentioned this already, right? You're working with 3 other individuals, and you've already made some decisions. And I'm really curious how the like selection process, that the process of picking the stories that come in through this open call is actually going to work, because that's a lot of heads that gotta come together, right?
Right. There's 4 of us, and we have Erin Brown. She's an author and a great facilitator of like lectures and instructional panels and so forth. We have PC Varone, who is a playwright and author, and he has a book that's coming out pretty soon. I don't want to say the title because I might say the wrong title, and I don't want to do that to him. I'll have to look that up and tell you at some point. And then we have Amalia Harrington, also an author and an acquiring editor of fiction at Fire Literary Magazine. So we have this pool of experience, and we were all in the same writing group. We said we wanted to do an anthology. We were just like, an anthology would be so great. It would be so awesome if we could do an anthology. It started right there. And then we just said, what kind of anthology would we write? And we wound up with a Cookout, and we spent a whole year researching. We researched existing anthologies, successful anthologies, small presses that published anthologies. We spoke with publishers who were happy to sit down with us in Zoom and answer our questions about how to go about producing an anthology. And I am an editor for Solar Punk Magazine. Justine Kirsten, they are the owner of Android Press. So when it was time, I just reached out. I said, I don't know if Android is accepting anything right now. I'd feel remiss not to include you in this because we work together otherwise. But here's what we have going on. Are you interested? But it's been challenging in terms of, yes, we are 4 different people, 4 different brains. But I feel like it went surprisingly smoothly. Very little conflict. And whenever there was any misalignment of ideas or opinions, we were able to work it out with a simple vote.
Okay.
So it
happens if you tied?
I'm sorry?
What happens if you tied?
That happened a few times too. And we'd vote again between those 2.
Okay. I know that I've done several anthologies with one co-editor, and often what happens is, like, when we're selecting stories or we get stories in, we'll each grab half and we'll read them and we'll rate them, and then we switch, and then the ones that we rate the highest, those automatically get in, and then we have the ones that we both didn't like automatically get out, and then there's that middle chunk, and then that's the chunk that is like 6 stories go into Thunderdome to come out.
And it's going to be a similar process for us, and it's also going to be very difficult because you're
yeah.
going to have some very good stories coming from really great authors. And we're going to have to say, we can't do too many of this type of story. We want it to be a balanced anthology. And so some stories that we love might not get chosen. But at the same time, we are trying to include as many as possible. We know we have our experienced authors that we're looking for. We are looking to publish at least one first-time author.
Oh, wow.
So to be in this anthology would be a great opportunity for that individual. And so we know it's a big ask of them because they don't have the experience. But if you're up to the task and you write a good story that we can help you develop and edit into something that's perfect for publishing or good for publishing, then it's a great opportunity. And I wish I had that opportunity when I was first trying to get published.
I try to do that in some of my open calls. Right now I have an open call with Flash Fiction Online. It's blind submissions. I'm working with assistant editors that I haven't worked with before, but I trust them because I trust Flash Fiction Online because they do such good work.
They do.
But I also will be looking at, I don't know, I think I have 300 submissions so far, and it closes at the end of the month. The thing that I'm interested in, for me, I mean, beyond being you publish this person first, which I got to do with a number of authors, which made me very happy that they're successful. I have not looked at your submission guidelines because I am not from the African that word.
That word.
Diaspora. I have a lisp and I'm dyslexic, so I've had to really work on it. Diaspora. So when I put out submission guidelines, I'm like, they're not guidelines, they're rules. You freaking follow my rules because if you're going to be too difficult to work with,
Yes, absolutely.
So how strict are your guidelines?
Our guidelines are only strict in the sense that you have to be Black. You have to be from the Black diaspora.
Okay.
And there are certain subject matters that we will not accept. So any other isms, racism, sexism, ableism, we're not accepting any of those. We're not accepting erotica. We're not accepting violence, extreme violence and gore, that sort of thing. Other than that, we have the suggested length for stories. It must be between 500 and 5,000 words. That's a very wide margin.
Amount.
Exactly. And they must not have been published before anywhere. So on your blog, on Wattpad, anywhere. It should be a brand new story that you've never published anywhere. And we chose to make these rules kind of open because we didn't want people to feel too restricted. And we wanted people who might have experimental stories or ideas that are a little different from the norm to feel included as well.
I mean, a part of me is sad that I can't write a story for this. And I totally get it, and I totally understand it, and I totally support it. But part of me is very sad that I don't get a chance to write for this. I really hope people who are out there listening, let the editors do their job. Don't do their job for them. Your job is to write the story. It's their job to decide whether or not it fits in the anthology of the Cookout.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's really,
at the same time, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, at the same time, I just think that we expect people to have fun with this. We want your writing to show that you had fun writing this story. So.
And I very much appreciate that being positive, uplifting stories. When I did my Fleeting Fantasies anthology, I had done the Tiny Terrors before, and I'm known for dark speculative fiction. I very specifically said I didn't want horror. My goodness, people were mean still. I mean, the stories were mean. Like, siblings betraying each other, lovers betraying each other. I'm like, no, I want fantasy. I want traditional fantasy. I want the fairy tale. I want something that doesn't want to make me cry at the end of the day. I want to come out of the story and be like, man, that was awesome.
And from our perspective, even if a story makes you cry, it doesn't have to be negative. We just don't want the negativity. So if a story is just so touching that it really touches you at your core and it makes you cry, that's probably a good thing. But at the same time, we don't want to poor me. Life is miserable. This planet is going to hell in a handbasket. There's no hope for humanity. We're just trying to avoid that kind of thinking.
But like, if it's the first cookout since a beloved senior died, that could be that kind of story.
Exactly. It could even be like a post-apocalyptic piece of fiction. But there's hope there to be found too.
It's kind of like the Stone Soup story, but in a post-apocalyptic setting. Do you know the Stone Soup story?
It sounds familiar. It sounds like something I might have read a very long time ago.
Basically, it's a woman in a poor village brought a large pot, one of those big large pots out, and she started at the cook fire, and she put a couple of rocks in, and she started cooking, and people are like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Well, I'm making stone soup." And then she said something like, "Oh, a little bit of onion would be good." And somebody was like, "Oh, I have a couple of onions." So they went and got it. And then somebody else like, "Well, I have some potato." And she's like, "Oh, that would make my stone soup amazing." And eventually the entire village each put one small ingredient into this cook pot. And then suddenly it turned out stone soup was the village feeding everybody by sharing.
That's amazing. And you know what? I know the concept of stone soup, but I did not know this story.
I know I've read it, and I know it's a fairy tale of probably not Brothers Grimm, because they're pretty Brothers Grimm.
No, that wasn't Brothers Grimm, definitely.
But I don't remember where it came from, but I remember reading it and thinking this was amazing. So if you're out there and you know what story I'm talking about, make sure you comment on somewhere on one of these podcasts. So make Shaun come hunt me down and tell me what the name of the story is.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll probably go searching too.
Just to jump back just a little bit as a reminder to anybody, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about submitting and you are new, Tonya said earlier they would like very much to have a brand new author. And I know that having been on the writing side when I was a lot more active trying to have a writing career, there is a tendency for writers to like self-reject, right? To say, I'm not good enough, etc. Maybe you won't make it. But you know what? It does not hurt. If you think it's a story that could work, just submit it. Maybe it will.
Precisely.
You never know. The worst thing that can happen is they go, well, we just not this time. And nothing bad happened to you, and you just try a different anthology in the future.
And I would suggest that anyone who's submitting for the first time indicate that this is their first submission, that this would be their first publication, because even if we do not accept that story, we would be happy and honored to send some helpful feedback.
Absolutely.
That's really nice of you.
That's very nice. And that's tough work too. So yeah, hopefully more folks who are new will give it a shot, and then we might see a new voice who becomes a big name on the field. You never know.
That would be so great.
With Flash Fiction Online, because, like I said, blind submissions, I have no idea who's submitting the story. And that is the time not to say, I've never been published before, because you just let the work stand for themselves. But, and actually, when I send out rejections, and that's the worst part of any anthology, is sending out the rejections, I oftentimes don't give feedback, because what I like or dislike, the next author may like or dislike. Maybe exactly the opposite. If I find the pacing wrong or something, then I will mention that. When you do your rejections, what are you planning to give feedback, or are you planning to kind of do the thank you, no, or are you going to do tiered responses?
We'll give a kind, considerate response, but we probably won't give feedback to every single submission, especially if it's somebody that we know is experienced and they know what they're doing. Arbitrary feedback can come across as being very arrogant and preachy.
Patronizing.
Patronizing, that's the word I was searching for. And we don't want to do that. But if it's a first-time author and they're like, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, yeah, we'll say, hey, this is what we noticed. Drop a few links and say, if you go to this website, if you read this book, if you do this or that, that could really help you to get where you're trying to go.
Yeah, and so that I see as encouraging, right? You're saying, hey, like, keep at it, go poke at these things and kind of work on these things, and then maybe the next story will land.
Exactly.
When is this anthology supposed to come out?
We are aiming for end of this year.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I think submissions close April 30.
Is it April 15th? I thought it was April 30.
I might be mixing up my dates because I'm dumb.
It should be the end of April.
It's April sometime. Yeah.
Oh, April 15th is taxes.
That's
you don't
right.
want to forget those. You don't want to forget those.
Oh, those horrible taxes. Awful taxes. Yeah, but okay. So you got plenty of time by the time this comes out to still, if you haven't started a story, start a story now. If you
have time.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah. You have time.
And Tonya, I'm curious if there's anything you would like to say to your Kickstarter backers or to the listeners or any prospective readers or writers that you would like to say about the Cookout and the anthology and what you guys are putting together.
We have gotten the feedback that we've gotten from authors who may or may not submit to the anthology has been phenomenal and encouraging. And we are so grateful for that. Because when we first put the idea out into the world, we didn't know what to expect. And then people kept coming to us and saying, this is a great idea. I would love to write a story for this. And that gives you so much reassurance and confidence. And it helped us to keep our momentum going for so long. You would not believe it. So I'm especially thankful to those people. I'm thankful to the publishers who met with us on Zoom and answered all our questions, the editors who answered all our questions, just amazingly supportive. And our Kickstarter supporters, of course. You are the ones that ultimately are making this happen. And we can't thank you enough. And believe me, we're going to put everything into making this anthology. We are going to make it live up to your expectations. Because this is amazing. And it's one of the best things that's ever happened to a lot of us.
I have one question that I don't know how much you can answer, but I am kind of curious. When people build anthologies that are on a theme or have some commonality that is between the stories, there's often like an effort to kind of organize the stories. Sometimes there's an effort to organize the stories in some way. Is that part of the plan, or are you kind of seeing where you end up when you get all the stories you accept?
We're going to see where we end up because we're expecting such a diverse pool of stories, because we want science fiction, we want horror, we want fantasy. So, on one hand, we know what we're looking for. On the other hand, we don't know what to expect. And aside from our anchor authors who we know what they're bringing to the table, we don't know anything else. So we're kind of in a wait and see mode right now. But I don't know. I feel like no matter how this anthology ends up, we're going to end up being very happy with it.
I think a lot of people are. Like I said, I'm really excited about this, and I can't wait to read it. Um, and again, like stories popping in my head of ideas that I would love to write for it, but I'm not because I I was thinking about what space uh, potato salad would look like. What do you think space potato salad would look like?
Oh my god.
It might look just like potato salad. It might not taste like potato salad. It might not be potatoes at all.
Fake potatoes. It could be like from your algae blooms. Like that's your spice in it.
Like most certainly, I could tell you that my story, I don't want to tell too much about it, but which I don't know if my story is going to end up in an anthology or not, to be honest, because we plan to be very specific about what we're doing. And if my story doesn't measure up to what everything else in the anthology, I don't want it to be in there. Okay. I want to work on it more and do something else with it later on. But imagine, so there's a Jamaican dish called rice and peas. It's rice, kidney beans. One of the essential ingredients is coconut milk. Imagine you have to get the coconut from the coconut tree, only to have the coconut run away.
Is this supposed to be funny or scary runaway?
Either?
It could be both.
So, that's terrifying. I do really like this thought, though, of trying to imagine, like, if you're on, a space journey, like if we're dealing with like space travel where you can't just like poof and you're some other place in an instant, right? Travel takes time. You probably don't bring a lot of what we would think of as the essentials for the food you make. Like you probably are very sparing about the spices you bring because that's you don't have room for it. Or like
right.
You're right, like potato salad might taste similar, but it could be made out of not even potatoes, because I don't know that you would bring potatoes into a spaceship, right? So maybe you're doing soy or something.
But not only that,
green, perhaps.
Yeah.
The implements in which you cook things, like that. Like, for example, I had a water line break in my kitchen last month, literally got torn down to the studs, and they had to pack away a bunch of my stuff. So I have kind of a temp placeholder while insurance and everything works. The amount of things that I don't have, like I had to borrow silverware because they packed it away. I'm like, the stories of trying to create that giant pot so you could have the curry. If you're in a space station, where would you make the pot out of? Or if you're in a traditional setting, or if you're even in a post-apocalyptic setting. All the different ways that you could complicate it. It would be low stakes, except for the fact that you wouldn't get the dish if you didn't get the implement to create the dish. And
then it's going to be very interesting because we expect a lot of work from people who have lived in or been to third world countries where people have already had to be very creative about such things. So steel drums, for example, using a steel drum as a pot, you have to cut it in half.
Oh.
And then put it on the fire.
But wouldn't that destroy the drum itself so that there would be no more music?
Not that kind of drum.
You're thinking like an oil, almost drum. Like an oil drum or something.
Oil drum, okay. Cargo.
Yeah.
So you said steel drum, and I was seeing one of those like
the musical instrument.
Yeah, that would be interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you sacrifice your musical instrument to be able to make a certain dish that would feed a large group of people?
I don't know. Are you hungry enough?
Well, it's also, how else can you make music?
People get very creative about making music.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
So
yeah. So it's kind of a 6 of one, half a dozen for the other kind of situation. But I'll give you a good idea of how creative people get with. In Jamaica, there's a dish by old tradition that you can make outdoors on a fire. It's called sweet potato pudding. It is not American sweet potato pudding. It is more substantial. It's really sweet. And there's a saying about it. When you mix with sweet potato, it's hell on top, hell on bottom, hallelujah in the middle. So basically, you're going to make a fire. You're going to have a layer where the pudding pan or the cake pan will go. You're going to have a layer that covers that. And on top of that, there's another fire. And that's how you bake that pudding. So it's really, when I say pudding, it's not pudding in the American sense. It's pudding more like a cake.
Right. Like a Dutch oven using.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on the bike. I got this.
So imagine trying to do that on a terraform planet where you're just using whatever you can find as a pot.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or on a space station or a spaceship.
There's
it becomes
all kinds
very
of,
interesting. Yeah.
You could have a lot of fun with just thinking of the logistics of how you have a cookout in situations where you just don't simply have the abundance
exactly
that we would have, perhaps. That's very interesting.
Try to make a Kahlua pork, but you're basically in a bog.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I love it.
It's fun.
It's I expect to see so many interesting things.
I'm excited because I also I don't know, I will say I have expectations, but I just don't know if they're rational expectations. But I'm curious about the stories that'll ultimately come out of this, how people play around with this setting in unique combinations with other kinds of genres and other settings. And yeah, you could just have so much fun. And I also really appreciate that this is an anthology that's pushing for some optimism, because sometimes I need a dose of feeling like everything isn't going to fall apart and end. So,
especially today.
Yeah.
Especially in the current. Yeah.
it feels overwhelming sometimes, and I think a little optimism can do us some good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for folks that would like to find the submission guidelines, they're at thecookoutanthology.com, which also has other information about like the people behind it, and there's some other links there that can give you some information. You can also go to the Kickstarter page. There's more stuff there as well. You can learn a little bit about, how the Kickstarter came together and the pieces of that. So if you are a writer looking to submit, do go to thecookoutanthology.com and check those submission guidelines out. Get that story going and get it in. I would love for you to submit. I'm sure Tonya would even more love for you to submit more than me, because Tonya's going to read them. So
yes, absolutely. And we welcome questions. Do not hesitate to tap any of us on social media if you need to. We have TCO-anthology on Blue Sky. And I'm on Blue Sky as TonyaRmore.com. So Tonya, how does it go? At TonyaRmore.com. So feel free to DM me or just at me in my comments or whatever. You have a question, we'll be happy to answer.
Okay. So as a rounded out, what are you working on next?
Personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
what are you doing?
I'm working on a novella. It's going to be a merman and an art demon team up to basically this is how it's I'm sorry, this is basically how it goes. Merman uncovers art demon. Art demon's old enemy becomes aware of his return to the world. Sparks fly.
Oh.
Bad sparks, good sparks. And now you have a supernatural war on the verge of breaking out. So hopefully I can put it all together and make something good of that. So
That's excellent.
Well, that sounds really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Shaun, what have you got next going on?
I got nothing. I'm working on this podcast. I'm grading papers. That's what I'm doing.
And I just finished the rough draft on my latest Shadowrun novel, and so now I have to fix it before I turn it in at the end of the month.
Now the work really begins.
Yes. Yes. Now that I know what the whole story is, and even in that last chapter, one of my characters shocked the hell out of me. I just said something. I was like, "Oh, that's why you've been acting this weird this entire time." Okay.
I love when that happens.
I
love when that happens.
Now I have to go back and layer in some, the themes of. Yeah, I love that.
Oh, and Shaun mentioned grading papers, so this actually gave me a reminder that I'm actually finishing up my bachelor's degree, after which I'm going to be pursuing an MFA. So I've already gotten accepted into the MFA program, creative writing. So the next 2 years are probably going to be very interesting.
Very.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congrats. That's fantastic news. I wish you all the success in the universe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yeah, we're looking forward to this anthology and being able to tell the world, this is what we got. Check it out.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tonya, for coming on and talking to us about this. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you hosting me and asking such wonderful questions. It makes me even more hopeful for what's going to happen next.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
That's good. So for folks at home, if you have any thoughts, or if you just want to tell us that you are one of the people that submitted, just so that we have inside knowledge just for funsies, you can email us at skiffyandfanty@gmail.com. Or if you're in the Discord, you can talk in there because, you're there. So there you go. We're on Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon, all kinds of places. If you just go to skiffyandfanty.com/skiffythings, you will find all the links to our various things that we're on. And then we are live every Friday at 7 p.m. Central on twitch.tv/alphabetstreams, where we record most of our shows live. There are a handful of exceptions every year. And so please go check us out. And then if you like the show and you want to support us, please go to patreon.com/skiffyandfanty. And then I do want to make one quick announcement that I promised I would make on behalf of Locus, because they emailed us and they asked us if we would kindly make a note. Tonya's Kickstarter, not Tonya alone, but Tonya, the Cookout anthology has funded. But Locus at the moment is also trying to raise fund for Locus. As for Locus Publications, if you are interested in that, please do consider going to locusmag.com/IGG26. They are raising funds. They have tons of perks and things if you'd like to get various perks, all kinds of things from story reviews from professional writers and editors to free books and all kinds of stuff. They need every dime so that we can keep Locus alive, because Locus does really great work. They write reviews and do interviews and cover all kinds of materials in the SFF world, which, frankly, we don't have a lot of professional publications that are focused on the literary side of SFF. And so this is really important. In my mind, Locus is really important. So please just go there. And if you've got a few bucks to give, you can give that. And if you've got a lot of money to give, you can get some cool perks. So there you go. Oh, it now goes to you, Jennifer, where we thank our Patreon supporters.
I wasn't certain. You did the thing different with the script, and I was like, am I supposed to continue? Okay.
That's my fault. I should have put a note in there.
You were typing notes to me this whole time, behind the scenes. Okay. I thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Andrea the Abiding, Cameron the Chthonic, Caroline the Benevolent, Carrie the Divine, Chris the Candescent, Dan the Transient, Daniel the Cultured, David the Debonair, JC the Jocular, Jeff the Gracious, Joseph the Jovial, Juan the Junctional, KB the Kind, Karen the Kickass, Kat the Kidomatic, and Matthew the Magnificent.
We also have Paul the Pious, Robin the Bold, Ryan the Resilient, Sarah A. the Sensational, Sarah E. the Sublime, Sarah O. the Rapturous. We're looking for the rest of those vowels, by the way. So if you are a Sarah, Help us out here. Scott the Gentleman, Stephen the Strange, Tari the Thorough, Tonya the Triumphant. I wonder who that is. I don't know. Do we know a Tonya?
Sounds strangely familiar.
It does,
recently
right?
very triumphant.
We also have Trish the Imperturbable and Victor the Valiant. I'm at ShaunDuke.net. Alphabet Streams is also my Twitch. I'm Wednesday, Sunday, 6 p.m. Central, so please come. And then just put /DukeThings, ShaunDuke.net/DukeThings, and you'll find all my nonsense on the internet.
And I'm Jennifer Brozek, author, editor, and media tie-in writer. You can find me at jenniferbrozek.com. Sign up for my newsletter there. And I'm most active on Blue Sky at Jennifer Brozek. And if you want to see pictures of my cats, Jennifer_Brozek at Instagram.
Excellent. As required by the Skiffy Fanti bylaws, I must make this hopeful. And so my hopeful statement is, I think a science fiction convention somewhere should have a cookout. I don't know why we haven't had one.
Worldcon in this year is in the
LA. Is it not LA?
Yeah, Los Angeles, but it's in
Anaheim.
Yeah,
It's in the southern part of California, so it should be sunny. And I wonder if they have... I heard something about all of the party rooms being kind of outdoors in giant tents.
Cookout time.
We may already have a cookout for
Worldcon Cookout. Worldcon Cookout. Oh my goodness.
That would be so cool. That would be very cool. So someone make it happen, because that would bring joy to the world, and we need more joy.
Someone who's not me.
All right, folks. On that note, hopeful ending and scene.